moment.
Well, it's the end of the week. Now, where you been? Well, now it's Feedback Friday, so come on in. Come sit down and stare at your screen. We got a presenter that you never seen. We're Feedback Friday, we're on the loose. We'll be the train, you be the caboose. It's Feedback Friday with Kathy and Amy. Mashed potatoes and the gravy. It's Feedback Friday all day long. Feedback, feedback, Feedback Friday. Well, it's the end of the week.
Sorry.
Oh, a
Sorry, guys.
reprieve.
Whoa. We've got a
It's
system
on a loop.
System malfunction. Just a moment.
Oh,
Oh boy.
keep dancing.
Oh boy. Sorry about that.
Here we go.
System malfunction.
I think I learned this in the 8th grade. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Friday, November 6th. Is that right? OMG. Well, we made it to the end of the week. We're getting closer, I think. I'm a lot less like in the world of dread, but I'm still in the world of fear. But okay. But welcome. Let's leave fear and dread behind, and let's have a great hour together with Feedback Friday, episode number 31. My goodness, I'm Kathy Hattori, president of Botanical Colors, and along with my ever-present friend, Amy Dufo, who is our director of social media and sustainability, we're here to present Feedback Friday. It's our program where we meet with artists, scholars, scientists, oh gosh, who else? Free spirits, anybody who's interested, growers, anyone who's interested in the world of natural color and dyes. And so just welcome everyone. It has been probably one of the tougher weeks of of our existence, but here we are, and this looks like we might even have sunshine today in Seattle. I don't know how it is in Portland, but we're doing okay. Today, our presenter is Lani Estill from Bear Ranch. Lani and her family operate and own this amazing plot of land in the Northeastern California, up in near Alturas, and also the ranch extends into, I believe, part of Nevada, right? So you're kind of a dual state citizen. That's kind of interesting. One state has already been decided, and the other state is still counting. That's incredible. And they practice regenerative agriculture with the help of partners like Fibershed and the Carbon Cycle Institute. And they're operating under a carbon farm plan, which is a relatively recent, I don't even want to call it a technology. It's kind of like a philosophical and sort of scientific shift of looking at land and figuring out how can land attract and hold carbon as opposed to tilling it constantly and releasing carbon. So it's a super interesting and very important idea. And Lani's going to speak a little bit about that as well as her farm. Lani is also the founder of Lani's Lana. If you speak Spanish, Lana means wool. And that's a great little kind of play on words that you've done. And it's a beautiful Rambouillet. She has been having the fibers from her sheep spun into both yarn for knitting, weaving. She has handwoven or nearly handwoven wool yardage, which I have in a little bundle right here. So welcome, Lani. And before we start, I'm just going to talk a little bit about housekeeping. We have a chat, and we'll be opening up chat at the end of Lani's presentation. And also, we're recording this call, so you'll have access to a video copy of this at the end. I don't know, sometime early. It's usually early in the week, right? That you send it out? Or are you sending out with the...
Kathy, that means I've been procrastinating when you say things like that.
Okay, so it's going to be ready in
I mean, by Sunday.
2021.
By Sunday, the latest. I don't mess around.
2021 sometime. Just keep checking the website.
In 2060.
2060. Yeah, so Lani, I'm going to turn it over to you. Welcome. We're so happy that you're joining us, and we're really eager to hear your story. So thank you, and take it away.
Thank you, Kathy and Amy. This is an amazing opportunity, and I'm just so excited to be able to join you. I'm at my daughter's house in her spare office bedroom because we are having some family, well, it's a funeral. We have a funeral today. So we're gonna be focused on that as soon as I get done here. But when we organized this, I told Kathy and Amy that this was my most important thing I had going on this week outside of family. So I'm just excited to be here. And well, let's just jump right in and then follow up with questions afterwards, if that's okay. Okay, I'm gonna start by sharing my screen. That little button right there, that should do it. Okay, so I'm Lani Estill, as they said, founder of Lani's Lana, fine Rambouillet wool, and this is Feedback Friday. My mission, well, I'll repeat it at the end. Okay, so we produce wool at my family's ranch in Eagleville, California, which is in the northeast corner of California, almost into Nevada, and our sheep range in both states. Nevada, so they have a walk. They actually walk twice a year, about 90 miles from the range up into the mountains. And we take that raw product, which is grass, and we turn it into food and fiber to produce food and fiber for a hungry nation. That was my old mission. And I used to say that in government meetings, and they'd be like, really? You really think it's that important to produce food? And I'm like, yeah. And this was before food security became a thing. So yeah, it's important. My mission, as I ventured out on my own, my husband and I divorced, it turned to the actual wool and fiber. And now I say that my mission is to produce high quality wool fiber to artisans and makers in the US, and specifically the Northern California region. And I really have that heart feel. I love my retail customers, but really like to get the product in the hands of other makers. Just love that. Okay, this picture, I'm gonna just dwell here a little bit. This is our mountain range. You can see the sheep, you can see the herder, and he's got all of his worldly goods packed up on 2 pack horses. My son was in the back. He's the one who took the picture, and he, of course, was helping. But this is not normally how our sheep herders would be moving. We do use pack horses in the mountains, but they were actually running from a fire. This picture was taken this end of August, 1st of September, and we lost about 90,000 acres of feed due to a lightning fire. And I just wanted to talk about this picture because it talks about, or shows you, a grazed landscape in the mountains of we're in the Warner Mountain Range, but it's kind of a smaller part of the Sierras, north of the Sierras. And this is a grazed landscape. If we didn't graze, this shrub undergrowth would be taller and there would be a lot more to burn. But since it is grazed, when a fire came through in 2002, which was called the Blue Fire, you're looking at what that fire did in this picture. And the trees burned. Some of them were, killed, but a lot of them survived. And this fire, like the Blue Fire in 2002, was very kind of patchworky. And so it did not burn and decimate the entire 90,000 acres. So grazed landscapes are important to keeping that fire ecology of the West under control and not to be so devastating. So I just wanted to spend a little time on this picture right here because if you live in California, it's on top of mind. Well, in Oregon too. So this is our mountain range. We are here in the summer months, and this is part of our winter range, which is out in Northwest Nevada. And this in front of us was actually also fire. This was also burned a couple of years back. And you can see the grass coming back, some weeds, which the sheep help to control that weed growth too. So that's our winter range. Okay, a little bit of history. In 2016, I met and started working with Rebecca Burgess and Fibershed. And with their help, Rebecca and Jeff Creek with the Carbon Cycle Institute, NRCS, we had a team. We wrote a carbon farm plan and started talking about practices that we could institute, which would help with soil health and help with the carbon cycle to get the carbon sequestered in the soil instead of in the atmosphere, which is where it's really beneficial, is in the soil. So far we have done practices like a 2-mile long shelter belt, compost production and application. We put water saving nozzles in our pivot irrigation sprinklers. We've instituted a minimum till farming protocol and made it a goal to get our ground that was like wheat and barley, and sometimes it's triticale. Sometimes you put those crops in between more permanent crops, and they help to improve your soil health before you put a permanent crop in. But what you do is tear up the ground every year, which releases carbon into the air and the atmosphere. So a no-till approach is better. Minimum till with cover crops in between is kind of how you get there, at least what we've discovered. We're also working on a big project in the meadows, which would include some riparian and more grazing management. Sorry, I lost the word. This graphic, thank you, shows the climate beneficial idea and the model that Fibershed came up with. And we're here with our fiber animals doing projects, sequestering carbon and drawing the water and the carbon down into the ground. From here, we obviously shear our sheep, and the fiber is processed using, as you know, GOT standard processors, as friendly of processing as we possibly can. We use all USA processors. Brands come into play down here on the bottom. You can't hardly see that, but brands come into play by providing the financing for that because they buy the wool and create the climate beneficial textiles. And then they donate back into our carbon farm plan and through Fibershed into a fund, which provides seed money for more projects. And I'm giving you an opportunity to, and I'll talk about that later, but I have an opportunity on my website to participate in that as well. If anybody on the call wants to help with any of that. So this next is a list of all the possible projects that help push our goal forward, the goal of carbon farming. I'll just take a minute for everybody to look at that. A few that we're working on would be the compost. That's a little tough for us because it uses so much water. I'll be honest, we struggle with that one, but it's important, and it is actually the most important. If you can get your compost applied, that's the one that, according to all the science, gets the most bang for the buck. We're doing the no-till. We're putting in shelter belts. We're working on tree and shrub establishment, forest stand improvement. We do this through taking out the juniper trees that grow and allowing the native trees to come back in. We're working on some riparian projects and yeah, hedgerow, wetland. All these things are awesome projects that we can work on and anybody could do if they have that. This is a picture of our shelter belt. Okay, and you saw that rangeland winter picture this is the type of topography we're working with. It's rangeland, it's dry, it's high desert. It's not easy to make things grow, I'll be honest. And when we put this one on the paper, it looked like, oh my gosh, we'll just do a 2-mile planting. What could be easier, right? You add water, plants, sunshine, it grows. Well, few things got in the way, and I'll be honest, I'm not that pleased with where we're at. But on the other hand, we've come a long ways, because this was nothing. We've got a fenced corridor, you see. That fenced corridor, which protects the plants. It's irrigated all the way down. There's 2 rows. The idea, the front row would be trees. Front row would be trees. This row would be pollinators and shrubs. And that's happened. We did lose a whole section that the irrigation system didn't work. And also the first year we had a lot of competition from weeds. And that surprisingly really competed with a lot of the little tiny trees that we planted. And then when our crews came in, we got crews from the conservation crews, and the California Deer Association came in and helped us with weeding. And they came and got a little carried away with their weed eaters and cut some of the trees down. And it's like, hello, what are we doing? But they couldn't see, because the weeds took off once we added water, and we couldn't see what was really growing. And so that was something we didn't plan for. We should have done a little better job with protecting those tender little plants. But this is our current shelter belt. It goes both directions with the camera. If I would have turned around and gone the other way, as far as your eye could see, it's a pretty long shelter belt area. This picture over here shows some yarrow that's growing. So we've got goldenrod, we've got yarrow, we've got serviceberry, willows. I think that's, I wouldn't swear to it. We've got apple, we've got, that's a willow. The willow, we planted 100 cedar trees last fall, 2019. And this year, 2020, this fall, it's disappointing because it was on my calendar and it kept getting shifted and shifted. We were going to put in a bunch of new plants and it didn't happen with the fire. Every available person got shifted to building fence, moving cattle and sheep, because we lost, like I said, 90,000 acres, and that was traumatic this year. It's a resilient ecology. It'll come back, but we've got a lot of fence to build and water developments to put back in. So we're looking for a spring planting. And I have a little spot on my website where anybody can contribute to that. I'll put it in a separate fund to put towards plant purchases next spring. And then we'll get a team with the California Deer Association and the Con Crew and anybody from Fibershed, folks that want to come up and help, and we'll get some more plants in this spring. Now that the irrigation's in, it's easier because you just pick one of these green spots and that's where we put the plant. Okay, moving forward. Like I said, after my divorce, my life shifted a bit. I teamed up with Bonnie Chase at Warner Mountain Weavers, and we started a store. Well, she had the store going. It's been there since 1998, and she's a dyer from the 1970s. Wonderful institutional knowledge on wool and dyeing and yarn and weaving, and she's an amazing, amazing individual. And we teamed up, and my new fiber line, yarn line, brought life to her business that already had a wonderful following. So we are a destination yarn store. We're the largest yarn store in the North State. So if you ever get up to Cedarville, if you're in Alturas, plan to make the jump over to the east to Cedarville. We're just 23 miles from Alturas to the east. Some of my products, I've got this beautiful comb top. These are undyed yarns made from this beautiful comb top. This is the natural sheep's color. And then that one actually is too. And then this one's a blend, 15% black, 85% white. This guy over here is natural because I've spent a ton of time sorting off my gray yarns. But next year it's gonna be a blend, because I just want to take that black and white and have a more reproducible color so it's not different every year. These are some of the yarns. You can see there's different weights. That's a bulky, that's a fingering. How are we time-wise? I want to leave time for questions.
You're good. You're doing great.
9:27. Okay, and then we do natural dyeing. My joy of working with Bonnie is that she is a master. She knows how to dye yarn, and she's taught me so much. We also grow a lot of our dye plants. This one in the picture is Coreopsis, and some of the yarn that we dyed with Coreopsis, it's on a black and white base there. And then this was the comb top. Some others that we did with the same base, different dye stuffs. And there's just some more dye stuffs with wild sunflowers, harvesting just from the sides of the road. This is my copper pot that we dye in to get that. It shifts it from the gold or yellow to the green with the addition of copper. And I also use copper scrubbies. And there's just a photo of me with my yarns from, gosh, we had a 4-day dyeing. We just did everything we could in season that year. That was 2018. And then, oops, clicked it through. Okay, that's all right. Let's go. I don't know if I can go back. So those natural dyed ones that I do, we do in very small batches, like 8 at a time, 8 skeins at a time is about our limit. And a lot of times Bonnie will just do 2 pounds and gets that darker, deeper color if we're careful. And I tend to stretch my dye stuffs as much as I can, and my colors aren't always as wonderful as hers. I need to take more lessons from the master. But we can't do very much. And so I kind of keep those special for my Fibershed shows. And I scaled it a bit by working with Swans Island in Maine. So they also natural dye. I think they're one of your customers, Kathy. And we did these colors so I could just have something that, I could offer and be more consistent with. I don't have a lot, but I have enough to supply small stores. And it's been great to have these colors all made up. And then fabric. We can talk about the fabric a little bit because it's so exciting, and the supply chain itself is great. We started as in a community supported cloth model with Fibershed, and they were amazing to help design the fabric, help market the fabric the first year, get the dyer, or not the dyers, because I did the dyers later. We were just working with white, and we just had the one fabric, which was a twill at the time, that one. And since then, we've branched out. We tried a plain weave. So this is a plain weave, that's a plain weave, that one's a plain weave. And it's more of a shirting fabric. It's really nice. I think that's what Kathy bought. So she has that plain weave. Love, love, love it. I think if we shift that route, I would probably love to make more plain weave. But the twill is great also, just different yarns. So I'll just tell the whole supply chain real quick. It goes from the ranch. I use Roswell wool as my wool broker. And then we get it back to Chargeurs in South Carolina to be scoured and coned into cone top. And then some of it's sold at that point. I sold to North Face, I've sold to Koyuchi, sold to Brooklyn Tweed, Jared Flood in his Ranch One project, which was great. That was fun to work with him. And we sold those as comb top, and that's a good place to work with brands because then they can take it and do their own thing in their own supply chain. But then I take mine and I go to Worsted Spinning New England, which was Jagger Brothers, and they went out of business and were purchased by Greg Fall. So the same people are still there. And then we had it dyed. Some of it was yarn dyed at Swans Island. These are some of the colors that are the same in my yarn: lava, dark sky, and sand, and the natural. And then we send it to Houston Textiles in Rancho Cordova. So that's where it's done, because it comes full circle back to California. At least we have a weaver, a local weaver who can do that. And love to see that, because the textile industry on the West Coast is very, very small. A lot of it we lost, and we want to see that come back. It's just so important. So important. Okay. All right. Take note, everybody. Jot your pencil down. Right now, today, if you go to my website, I have 2 opportunities for you. I mentioned earlier, excuse me, get some water. I mentioned earlier that we are offering an opportunity to buy plants and put the plants, contribute to that. But I'm also giving everybody 15% off today only with the coupon code Friday15, site-wide. So if you've been eyeing that fabric, there are no exceptions. So shop if you have your heart set on something, please. We appreciate that business so much, especially in this time when we can't go to shows, can't go to our normal ways that we sell. So there we go. We will stop share, and then I can see you better.
Thank you, Lani. That was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we're going to open it up for questions. Amy's going to moderate the chat. And so I actually had a question when I saw that you were moving the sheep. So, you know, I saw this thing on the New York Times where they went along in Europe on a migration. I can't, transhumance, is that what it's called? Anyway.
I've heard that term, yeah.
It's a thing, you know, where like traditionally they have a route and they have right of way on this route in order to go through these villages and towns up to the mountains, and then twice a year. Is that kind of what you're doing? I mean, obviously you're not going across highways and roads, but as much, but you're going up and back every year?
Yep, that's exactly what it is. And there are right-of-ways. We go across federal lands and we have permits. So part of the trek is where, you know, they can just graze, and we have large areas. But there's also what we call a trailing permit. And we go on some county roads out by Nevada. If any of you have been to Burning Man, it's Highway 447. It goes through Gerlach. That's where we go. Sorry, I looked at somebody in the chat. I gotta keep my mind on what I'm saying, not what's on the screen. So they go from, let's say if we start at the headquarters, which is where they are right now, and the sheep are on alfalfa fields, and our pivots, they're eating that alfalfa stubble, and they're with the bucks. It's a good time to breed, is on that superior feed, the alfalfa. Then they'll walk on the county road through this permit into Nevada. And it's like I said, 90 miles one way. They end up staying there from December 15 to March 15. And so on the Ides of March every year, we're coming back across there's railroad tracks there. We come across the tracks on March 15. And then they come back and they start their walk the other way. And they take, in the fall, it's quicker. They do it in about 15 days. In the spring, we have some grazing along the way. And so they will stay in the lambing grounds, we call it. And so they don't come as far back in the spring, and they stay there for 45 to 60 days. We lamb, we shear, and then they head up into the mountains after that.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it's a thing. So the Peruvian sheep herders stay with them 24/7. They live either in tents up in the mountains in the summer, or they have portable trailers, the sheep camps that they take with them, and that's where they live.
Incredible. Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry for all the running around. I had a dog who was needing an emergency outing, so running around, sorry. Do you have your wool superwash treated?
I have a very small amount of it superwash treated, and that I make into a sock yarn. So I do about 200 pounds of that is what I was doing this year. But most of it, no.
Okay. And you guys are asking about links that Lani was talking about, and I'll have that in the post that I'll be putting out on Sunday with a recap, the video recording, and yeah, Lani's links. That'll be your next Lani's links.
Lani's links. There we go.
So Michelle Gans is asking, would using discarded raw wool work as a good compost or mulch for gardens? Can you give some tips on using this method? Kind of goes on, bury it or apply it in layers. I was recently given a huge bag of llama seconds that I could not begin to clean or spin. Where could I get more information? So I guess the question is, can you compost with raw wool? Absolutely.
It does take a while. Because your backyard compost doesn't get hot enough to really break it down quickly. It's a bit of a challenge, but you can do it. It will definitely compost. Just be careful. It's a protein fiber, and so it breaks down. And that's one thing we like about it. That's why my wool or all my yarn's 100%. I don't even add nylon to the sock yarn. I just want it to be all 100% wool. If I did blend, I'd use silk or another natural fiber, but I haven't done that. Yeah, we want to be able to compost it, put it back into the soil. It's part of the cycle.
It's interesting here in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, we have all these farmers that are just throwing away all their wool because there's nothing, they can't do anything with it. There's, for the people who do scouring and here in New England, they just, it costs too much money, or they get the smaller farmers get pushed out because the larger farmers have the whatever priority. So it's been interesting, but that's what most people are doing, are using the wool as compost around here, but hopefully we'll find new ways to use it.
Right. And I like the idea of doing it as a mulch. I think that's a good way to use it, and it will break down, but yeah, mix it in with your leaves and put it on top of your plants.
Yeah. So Faith is asking, can you say more about the leases you have for grazing lands?
They're hard to come by. I'll say that. There's what we call sheep permits and cattle permits, and they are identified that way. Making a switch from cattle to sheep is difficult, and finding an open permit that's not already owned by somebody is difficult. Not impossible though. And a lot of changes are happening in agriculture. Younger people are coming in. And so if you know somebody who wants to do that, tell them, just get on the phone, start calling people. American Sheep Industry is a great resource. And the shearers know people. If you talk to shearers, because they go everywhere, they're a great resource to find out who might be looking to make a change or invite some other herds in.
And I think on the Fibershed site, there's a listing maybe of shearers in the area. Heidi's saying maybe yes. I could see her shaking her head a little bit. But yeah, a lot of the Fibersheds all over the US, they have listings of shearers so that you can get in touch with people and just use your local Fibershed as a massive resource for what Lani's talking about.
Yeah, and you can talk to BLM Forest Service, but the leases are already owned by individuals, and so the permit has to actually be purchased from another grower. But the agencies are definitely good resources to find out where to go.
I think leased land is like a whole other conversation, just amount of people moving out of cities into areas that they want to start developing, and how many farmers are actually losing their land to the people they've been leasing from that are now building homes on them. So there's a lot of food and fiber farms that are being lost now to people leaving cities from the pandemic, which is, again, that's a rabbit hole right there. But so Jan Hubbard's asking, what are the native trees that you're planting, if not, planting, if not juniper? I know you were talking about taking down the juniper.
Oh, okay. So juniper in our area is considered a noxious weed. I know that's kind of weird because even juniper does sequester carbon. But when we pull that out, it gives room for the native shrubs to come in. So it is a cycle where it goes from grasses to shrubs to the trees, and so it would be more grasses and shrubs that would come in first: bitterbrush, snowberry, serviceberry, those types of things, and the sagebrush too.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're expecting to come in before we see trees. But up in the pines, we've got pine trees, fir trees is pretty much what grows in the Warners.
Yeah. And I know that there's a question further down here. Somebody's asking about kind of just different practices. I know sometimes it's hard to understand, like what Lani's talking about a little bit. I was working with some local alpaca farmers where they were like practices, riparian, whatever, like all these words that you're not so familiar with. But if you go on the Fibershed website, it's really broken down for you. You can always Google and look up some of the things that have been listed or talked about and were in some of the slides that Lani had. So Barbara is asking, how many sheep sustain a business of wool gathering, and what is a grassed waterway?
It depends on how you want to operate for how many sheep would sustain you. Really, if you want to have them on the side, a lot of people do small businesses on the side, and the spouse works, it's not a full-time thing. I'd say a herd of 1,000 is probably the minimum if you're going to just do that and expect the sheep to sustain you. And we have small families, but we have to hire people, but we have 3,000. Another operator that's a neighbor has 7,000, and that varies. But, and then you're talking about multiple family members or family groups working in that operation. I know it's just all over the board, trying to figure out how to fit it into what else you're doing.
Here's the big one for you. How are you measuring soil carbon, and how is it changing or improving?
I am not measuring it. That's honest answer. I think that we've got enough as growers that we are doing practices that are known to help sequester carbon, and that's enough for us. We have an organization called Point Blue that has been doing some monitoring for us, and they come out and look and they monitor. Their plate's pretty full. I don't think that we've got any good reports or data back from them. And this is a whole nother discussion as to, in Australia, they've done a lot of real monitoring to measure, take soil samples, measure. Our monitoring is visual soil samples on the alfalfa fields where we've been putting the compost in. We do that every year. And we've shown increase in carbon in organic matter and the carbon drawdown. So. Yeah,
and then I feel like I'm gonna have like a million links for these guys, just kind of based on some of the things you're talking about. Right. Lani, what's the name of that? That Fibershed has it, and it is a tool that measures the amount of carbon just based on
the practice. That's the Comet Farm Planner.
The Comet, yeah, Comet Farm Planner, right?
Comet Farm Planner, and that's what we use to figure out what each one of these practices, how it helped. And the one I haven't got to Jeff that I want him to work into that Comet Farm Planner is where we had some big fields, like 200-acre fields that were open, and we've been struggling to get that planted into a permanent crop. And we finally got the alfalfa established. So now instead of bare ground, we have alfalfa, and it's covered. That ground is not releasing carbon into the atmosphere. I want to plug that into our system and see where we're at. And that's exciting. Just to see what the numbers say in Comet Farm Planner.
Yeah, I know. It's exciting to see. I know with the farmers we were working with around here, we did soil samples from because the Comet Planner, I think you go from 4 different areas in a field, just kind of a random space, a random square, you kind of, after making your grid, and then you take your samples from the grid, and then you can measure it, a year later. And the whole reason why you're doing this to have keep carbon in the ground, but you're also doing this to have better grazing pastures for your sheep with just more nutrient filled grasses for them to eat.
Exactly. And that's our focus. A lot of people want us to do it all, and I'm sorry, I can't.
You got to run a business. You're an entrepreneur. Exactly. So Laura Fraser's asking, how many adult sheep do you have? How many pounds of wool do you produce each year?
We have around 3,000 adult sheep, and that varies 2,800 to 3,200. You know, it kind of goes up and down a little bit, but it's in that range. And we produce around 25,000 pounds a year.
Yeah. So Deborah Barker's asking, because I forgot, I'm almost positive that you did work with the North Face for their backyard. Yeah.
Yep.
So of course there's some gigantic military plane going over my house. I hope you guys can hear me right now. What are the opportunities and challenges of working with a big brand like the North Face?
I'd say the biggest challenge is knowing who to talk to because they change. And we were lucky. We worked with Crystal Moody at first, and then she actually became the person who designed the fabric and was in charge of the community supported cloth after she left North Face. And we were handed off to Carol, and Carol was amazing. And she's still with North Face, even though they moved their offices from Alameda County to Denver. She's still with them. So Carol Shue is the person I call and talk to. And then as people shift in their roles, she's able to kind of direct me to the team. And so she's my first call. The other challenge is like this year in a pandemic, they just stopped production, and they may pick it back up, but they just stopped production. So we're kind of in limbo land as to what we're doing in 2021 with North Face. 2020, we didn't do a new project.
I think what was awesome with the backyard, it started with the backyard hoodie, and it has become the backyard project. So it's gone from cotton, I think it went to recycled materials, and then there was the climate beneficial beanie, which is, I'm assuming that's what you did, the climate beneficial beanie. Yeah, that was really cool. So yeah, the North Face just kind of keeps working with different farmers. I think just in your region, in your area in California.
For the backyard project, yeah. And they did take their cotton down to Arizona, but it's still kind of in that whole backyard area. It's still US, so that's good. We did a climate beneficial beanie and scarf, and also the climate beneficial jacket.
Oh, yeah.
So that was
whoa,
fun.
okay.
Jacket, and unfortunately I don't know where that one's going to go because American Woolen was the weaving partner on that, and they've been, I don't know if they're completely out of business, but they've been closed for 2 months after this pandemic.
They are not. They are definitely, as far as I know, they are coming back. They might just be resting right now, but yeah. Okay, so is your irrigation from an aquifer? Is it threatened?
Our irrigation is from a reservoir. One of the awesome things about the Bear Ranch is it has a gravity flow water system, and we do have 2 wells on the ranch, and so they're aquifer driven, but the majority of the water for the ranch comes from that reservoir. And we just added that well when we added 2 new pivots to the system. Prior to us owning it, there wasn't a well on the ranch, an irrigation well on the ranch. So that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. So is there a reason you chose the type of sheep you have?
A little bit of serendipity, because when my ex-husband and I wanted to get into sheep, the neighbors had this herd that they were selling, and we purchased it. It was a fine wool breed, and then the wool grabbed my attention, and I loved it. And we just have continued to stay with that fine wool breed. And it works well in the range where we are now. We moved them from Williams, California, down on the Highway 20, I-5 and 20 area, up to the Warner Mountains. So we started with 1,000 sheep in the Sacramento Valley, and then we moved it up, bought permits, and it expanded to 3 bands with the Rambouillet. And they are uniquely suited for range, and they're one of the great breeds for the American sheep operations, because they're the range, Utah, Montana, Wyoming, that area uses Rambouillet primarily.
Let's see, Susan Lundquist is saying the book Raw Material by Stephanie Wilkes was an excellent resource for me as a knitter and new spinner to learn about the practices. And we were talking about that on Tuesday too. I mean, I've been following you for years and been a fan of the work that you do, but when Stephanie's book, which I have to gotta make sure you got to get this book. It's so good. But she talks about coming to visit you and coming to shear sheep. She was helping somebody, but that was I was saying, I get it. It's a hard job, what you have. It's not, I mean, it looks beautiful. All the pictures that you have, that's a hard job. But the way that Stephanie made it sound like coming over the pass into this little area that was all about Lani. And I was like, I want to go there and hang out with Lani and go to her ranch.
Yeah, Stephanie's awesome. She's actually who I stay with when I go to San Francisco now. We become friends.
And Stephanie too, Lani, she has, isn't it Stephanie? Oh, okay, what's the name of it? It's at San Francisco. It's a Fibershed marketplace that she's running at the farmer's market. Where is that again?
That is a virtual.
It's virtual now. Okay.
All virtual. It's a website, Fibershed Marketplace. And I'm on the board, so I can say we. We have go to pop-ups. We've done some pop-ups, and it was on the wharf last fall, and we did a pop-up at Lambtown. But it is a website, Fibershed Marketplace. It's a network of artisans throughout the San Francisco Bay Area, Northern California. And yeah, if you can go there and shop for Christmas, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and a lot of people are asking, thanks Kathy for helping me out on that, this discount code and the website and where to go. So I guess we'll have that also in our notes, but I wasn't even sure about the discount code. So I'm glad you knew it, Kathy.
LaniSlana.com, Friday 15.
Yeah. But the discount is today only, right? Pacific time?
Yeah, it's today only. I'll be doing another discount on all Fibershed products during the Wool Symposium.
Okay, great. Which is next week.
Which is coming up, yeah.
Yep.
Oh God, that's right. The symposium. I got to get a link to that. I just got my tickets today. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah. So if you want time to plan a project, but if you want color, do it this time because my color is limited on the Fibershed.
Rita is asking, what wool by the yard on your website would you recommend for dyeing, especially indigo?
Sorry, I was thinking about my website. Repeat that question, please. Somebody said the code didn't work, so I'm like, oh shoot.
Oh no! All right, we'll figure it out. Nobody gives up here.
Maybe we'll extend it another day if it's not working.
Yeah, maybe we can extend it. That would be good. So what wool by the yard on your, it says, what wool by the yard on your website would you recommend for dyeing, especially indigo?
Oh, any of the snow. So there's plain weave snow and there's the twill snow. That's the color. It's undyed white. Union cloth is also on there. So yeah, union cloth is another option. It's a combination of cotton and wool, and I don't have very much of it. So, and anybody who's looking at that code, I'll extend it another day. It's probably because I said it was.
And everybody's like, wait, well, the good thing is that they're listening to you and they're on your website trying to buy things. So
it was only good for one day. So it probably said, what? That doesn't work.
Like with a shopping channel suddenly, like, and we've got people trying to purchase things, Lani. And they're not
Home Shopping Network.
Home Shopping Network with Lani Estill. But let's see. Looks like, I can't believe it that we've gotten through all the questions. It's a miracle when these things happen. But, you know, one of the things, Kathy, you have that fabric of Lani's too, that beautiful fabric. Can
right
you
here in my hot little hands.
Again, Home Shopping Network. Kathy, can you show us that beautiful fabric?
Absolutely. This is, do you want to spotlight my video, Amy?
Yes, just a moment.
One moment, we'll spotlight the video.
Tell us more, Kathy.
This is... So this is the fabric. I know, it's so beautiful. It's a plain weave, but it's got like those of you who are weavers, it's got all that beautiful textured tracking in it. Can you see that diagonal, the little cross hatching?
Oh, you can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. And it's fairly lightweight. It's like slightly heavier than like Pendleton weight. Do you think? but it's also, it's got that nice, you know, you can tell I'm a wool nerd, you know, that kind of like slight sponginess that you get from really crimped, finely spun wool. This definitely has that feel. So we've been doing a ton of samples just to kind of get some color recipes on the side. And so this is what I thought, oh, this is what I'm going to use for my wool. Because I normally have a wool gauze that I buy, but it's imported, and I'm sure that it's really from China. Um, but we need stuff that comes from the United States. So that's
Kathy, you're gonna make me a tunic top out of that, maybe?
No, Amy, I'm
Oh,
not. But you buy the fabric and we'll dye it for you.
all right. Just I thought I'd try. I would
Yeah, you
try.
did try. That was
Yeah,
a nice try.
I
That was
thought
a
I
good
could like
try.
pressure you with all these people watching.
Yeah, not working.
Nah, great.
All right.
Well,
So
yeah. All
are
right.
we good with the questions for Lani? Because
We
we're
are. We
all
are.
right. So I'm just going to go for a couple reminders. Today's the last day if you want to sign up for Porfirio's class. We actually have some pericon, which is the Mexican traditional marigold dye that Porfirio uses. And I was able to get some. So it's on its way to us. And we'll be using that as the gold under dye. And then we do the cochineal over dye to get this amazing red. So the other thing is we were able to get copies of Dominique Cardon's book. I think I talked about it. Like it's enormous. It's huge and it's great. It's one of my favorites. And it was she first wrote it in French. And so the French edition, I think, is from like 2003 or 2004. And then this is 2007. And she also has a new book that was published last month. That's the workbook of Antoine Janot, who was a master dyer in the south of France, in the, I think, Languedoc, kind of Provence area. And so that book we're going to be carrying soon. So we have some really interesting dye books that are not necessarily widely available. And so those are available. And also the Jim Lyles book. I don't know if I've spoken about Jim Lyles before, but this was kind of the first technical dye book that I ever got. And it was just sort of this crazy, he was kind of this crazy zoologist, chemist, reenactment professor from Tennessee, and was the book has a picture of him in like a red vest that he dyed with cochineal, and with a tri was it a tricorn hat, you know, that the Revolutionary Army wore. So he was dressed up like some Revolutionary Army figure. That was what my first introduction to Jim Lyles. So that book's coming out too. And for our we have a special guest for next week. It's going to be me, and I'm working. We're doing we've done a review of the different types of indigo 1, 2, 3 vats, and we'll have kind of a studio session with the vats and the results that we're getting from them, and just kind of some new recipes and a blog post about what we did and what happened. So would love to have you join us. I think this is kind of the first time that we've had a little bit of time just to kind of look at it and say, let's check it out. So we did that, and it was super interesting to see. So we'll do that. We'll have the studio session and then lots of time for Q&A. And Kate Rosenfeld, who's one of our staff members here at Botanical Colors, will be joining me. So there'll be 2 of us presenting. All right.
Kathy, did you see that Lani has a friend?
Hi, friend.
It's my granddaughter, Stella.
Hello,
Hey,
Stella.
And she's modeling climate beneficial.
Woo!
She's a beauty.
Go, Stella, go.
Hi, Stella. You look very nice. Oh, that's great. Well, if that's it, we're going to unmute for goodbyes.
Thank you so
Lani,
much,
thank
Lani.
you so much for, I know this is a tough day.
Yes.
And really appreciate you taking the time to visit with us.
Definitely the highlight of my day. So thank you.
All right. Sending you love.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, Lani.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for putting this on.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Get a death, thank you.
Look at Stella's face.
Look at all these people, Stella.
Look at all these people. Oh,
Oh, there's
Oh.
Faith. Faith has got somebody. Hello.
oh.
Look,
Somebody-
they're saying
Bring
hi
your
to
baby
you.
to Feedback Friday.
Hi.
Okay? Let's do that.
Yeah. We have to have Feedback Friday babies.
Feedback Friday babies.
The babies of
So much.
Feedback Friday.
And we do Feedback
And the
Friday
puppies.
dogs and cats.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Oh,
the
look,
dogs and cats.
Ashley. Ashley's got a baby. Hi,
Ashley,
baby.
Hi, baby.
Hi, baby. Oh, see if there's baby on
Cute.
page 2.
So cute. Oh, Kathy, we're recording.
Oh, we're recording. This is good. This is a good thing to. Oh, look, there's a puppy.
Where?
Got a puppy. Hello, baby.
Oh.
Oh, hi, doggy.
You're looking at Jean's pup?
Yeah, Jean Hicks's pup. What a sweetheart. Hello,
Aw.
sweetheart.
You
Hello.
got my death wave.
Oh, Leslie, I like it. I like it.